35. I'm James.
I'm Jeremy.
I'm RJ.
And welcome to the show. You'll notice that it actually is a little bit different this week. This is the weekend of PAX Prime, the Seattle celebration of games and the attendant love-in, schmooze fest that happens up there every single year. That is where Scott is. Scott has taken his trip up to the Northwest, and he is, I assume, enjoying himself an awful lot.
I'm sure he is.
And you will also know that Jeremy is here.
Yeah.
He had his character written off of the show at the end of season 7, but he has returned in a special guest star role for this one simple episode because not like I don't talk all the time every time I'm on the show, but I have to handle all of Scott's normal intros and outros and everything like that as well. So I dragged him along to give me a little bit of help. Since, additionally, Dennis is out of town at the Dragon Con, and the intern, I have no idea where that is. I don't know what happened to it. It went to the beach or something. Good job, intern. Thanks a lot.
Good to see you, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you remember how to do this, by the way? Do you remember how to talk about games live on the air and to the people of the internet?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Okay.
It'll come to you.
We practice an awful lot at work because we work together, but we haven't really worked together very much in the last couple of months because I've been doing a different job.
Which is why you haven't been on the air very
Which is why I
much
haven't
either.
been on the air, and which is why you probably don't remember how to do this. So we apologize in advance for anything particularly awkward that might come up, but that is what we do. That is what you should be used to by this point. So welcome, everybody. How have you been, RJ?
Been good. Been playing a little bit of Arkham Origins. Finally finished the story mode of that, but there's so much more that I could do to finish off that game. You know, Riddler trophies, Enigma trophies, things of that nature. Little side missions here and there. There's a lot of stuff to do in there, but I wanted to really focus on the story to get through that and see how I liked that. And it was a pretty good experience overall, playing through Batman Origins.
You played the other two, right?
Yes, I played Arkham City and Arkham Asylum. Yeah.
Did you play them at or near release?
Close
Did you
to
play
release.
them whenever new?
Yeah,
You
close
didn't
to
wait
release.
a terribly long time.
Yeah, but Origins is the only one I waited a while for when it was on the superhero sale
Right.
on the PlayStation Network.
You played, Jeremy, you played Asylum, but you didn't play City?
That's correct. I didn't
still
play
haven't played
anything
City.
after Asylum yet.
Okay. I have tried a couple of times to play Arkham Origins. And I say try because I really wasn't in the mood to buy it. I guess I wanted to play it. I played Asylum and I played City. And, whatever. For what it's worth, I think I liked City a little bit better. I liked at least what it was trying to do a little bit better. I have tried to play Origins, but I got to tell you, the idea of sharing your Steam account with somebody who is a friend, as opposed to someone who is a housemate or a family member or someone with whom you share an individual computer, you don't have to do that. It's complicated, but Scott and I set up our accounts, and you have to authorize the physical machines either remotely or by doing, or remote access or locally rather, and then you do all the normal account sharing stuff. It's perfectly good, but when he gets on for the 700th time in a week to play pinball, like there I am, I'm done. I can't play any more Arkham Origins. So I've gotten only 5 minutes into Arkham Origins. All I know is there's some guys. And you got you're the Batman and you beat some guys up. And that's really all I've done. That's the only thing in the world I've done. I have no idea what the game is about. I have no idea where it falls in the spectrum of quality of all of their stuff. A number of people have said that it's not nearly up to spec with the Rocksteady stuff. But I don't know. I can't ever get a straight answer out of Scott because Batman. He doesn't know. How is it compared to this? But it's Batman. It's fine. How could it be anything more or less? It's Batman. So... How do you feel about it?
The way I felt about it really is it's the same mechanics, same format. It's just a different story. That's pretty much the general consensus of how I feel about the Batman series. I mean, I'm playing it for the story, not for anything else. I just want to see what type of story they've wrapped around the show this time. So that's been pretty much my motivation for playing the thing at all.
Right.
But I enjoyed it. So that's pretty much all that counts for. All that matters, really.
It may be a stupid question, and I'll obviously put this out to the chat room. Hey, chat room, thanks for joining us, by the way. It's really immaterial in the whole arc of things, right? Like when we get back to Rocksteady doing what they're doing, which is Arkham Knight, due I guess early next year. Origins is sort of, I don't know Origins is like a mid-course, right? It's not even a real thing. It's completely down there at the other end of the spectrum.
No, it's just I mean,
or the
story
other
of it.
end of the time scale, right?
Yeah, it's just a prequel. How things before everything else that started. Yeah, that's how
Okay.
that's how it operated.
I'm beginning to think that I'm never ever going to play it. I'm really not going to play it.
Mm-hmm.
You would think that at a time like this, when Scott has actually run away to the other side of the country,
But that would be a
that I would
really
have an
good
opportunity
time
to do it.
that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that isn't what happens at all under any circumstances. What happens is I sit down to my computer, and I think, well, WoW's pretty easy to start up, right? It's the easiest thing to do. It is absolutely the simplest, most straightforward thing to do.
Right.
I don't know.
You know,
That's what happens. It's what's always happened.
Yeah.
Anytime you play an MMO and you wind up being deeply invested in it for
Yeah.
whatever reason.
So how many hours your average? Like when you just started up, you just
In WoW,
yeah.
like it doesn't. I don't know. I have no idea. I just stay logged on all the time.
Well, okay.
I log in when I get to work, right? Because I go in pretty early so that I'm there with a lot of the people
Mhm.
that are there in the morning. I have my coffee and answer stupid emails or something like that. And then just log in and I'm like doofing around in the auction house. And I log in because it's a good chat program to talk to people that I know that I play with. And I just stay there. So I have no idea.
Okay.
The amount of time that I have actually logged in the game is embarrassing. I could probably look it up fairly easily because the game keeps track of how much time you've spent on an individual character.
Mhm.
But I don't really play it. I sell stuff on the auction house, I buy stuff from the auction house. I resell that stuff. I do a lot of really hateful activities like that. But not that there's really anything else to do right now. I think everybody's just twiddling their thumbs in that game waiting for the expansion pack, which has a tragically bad release date, November 13th. It's a really, really horrible release date for the next expansion. They haven't done a significant content update in 14 months. So I don't even know why I'm playing currently. But anyway, that's what I usually do. I have to actually sit down and make a concerted effort to focus on some other thing that I want to play
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times. And I don't know, I haven't had enough motivation to play things single player in a while. So thinking about playing something like Arkham Origins, even when Scott is away, just doesn't really translate particularly well.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. But what else have you been playing? That isn't all, right? That's not all you've been
No,
up to.
played a little bit of Dark Souls 2 as well. The second DLC came out for that, the Iron King's Crown. The thing is, though, I'm not sure where that location is yet because the first one, the Crown of the Sunken King, they're
The first
DLC for that one.
for Dark Souls 2.
Dark Souls 2, yeah.
Okay.
The location was in the Black Gulch, and I didn't realize that until looking around, asking around different players, and seeing where to look for information for it. So that's the Black Gulch. Went there, tried playing that, did not do well because the difficulty. It's Dark Souls, folks. So yes, the difficulty is ratcheted up a notch, and it's kind of difficult going through there, especially with the character I have, which is a dexterity build. Not a lot of attacking power, except with certain items. So it's been a real struggle trying to get through there, but that's what I expected playing Dark Souls. The second one I haven't got to yet, but I'm imagining it's just the same. There's a location you can go to activate it, go in there, start playing, and see how well you're doing there. But I'm really surprised at how fast this DLC is coming because I can remember downloading the first DLC, and this one comes out this past Tuesday, and I think the third one, Ivory King, is the 28th.
When
of
did the game
September.
launch? The game just launched late spring, early summer. Is
I
that
believe
right?
so,
Is it,
yeah.
was it that far along?
Let's see. I think it came. Yeah, I think spring was when it came out.
Spring,
but,
yeah.
spring
Brain
is when it
Trust
came
chat
out.
room, help us out a little bit. Somebody post a date. I honestly can't remember. I want to say that it was. It may have been further back than I think, like April, right? Maybe the end of April, beginning of May, something around there.
Mhm.
So to have the second DLC already out and be looking at the third
Mm-hmm.
is not that bad. That's paid DLC, right?
That's
Or is-
paid DLC. It's $10 each, or if you have the season pass to begin with, it should be $25 to get all three.
Oh,
Mhm.
that's not a. Nah, they could do better than that.
Yeah, they probably could.
They
but
could probably do better than that.
It's
What,
not
what did the first game have though? The first game only had
a
a single piece
I
of
think
story
it was
DLC?
on one DLC, Walk of the Abyss. I think the one you had to deal with Artorias the Abyss Walker. I think
Okay.
I had to deal with that storyline in the first Dark Souls.
Did Demons have DLC? Demon Souls?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't believe
Okay,
it did.
so it was Dark Souls where they added the DLC. It was only
Mhm.
a single piece of DLC.
Mhm.
that compared to this, though, are these smaller chunks? I mean, 3 pieces being released in almost as many months tells me that they're either not very big or, I don't know, they're just pieces of the game that were chopped out prior to release.
It's just like, to me,
get that sense?
right now it feels like I'm just going through just an added area, and with a few extra bosses and new weapons and things of that nature to go through. At least that's how the Sunken King DLC feels like to me now. I mean, I haven't explored all of it yet. Like I said, I'm still finding new areas and going through there, but it's just a little difficult with my character right now. If I wanted to go through with my other characters, I could probably have a better time because they're more leveled up and more advanced than the one I'm using now. But the one I'm using now is closer to the area to gain access to it. To get access to it with my other characters, I have to play through New Game Plus, because I just opened up New Game Plus for those two, and I'm just at the beginning again. So I got to go through the main storyline again to get to Black Gold so I can activate the thing again. But it feels like really just an extra area to go through for each one.
Okay.
New weapons, new creatures, new things to pick up, new items.
You're playing on PS3?
PS3
You
is
are
what I'm
not
playing
playing
on
on the PC for this?
PS3.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Bloodborne. Where are you at on that mentally? Where are you at? What's that going to do to you? Is that going to move you forward? Is that going to take you? Is that going to take you to the?
I'll probably just look up
to the PS4.
I'll probably look it up, see what it's all about.
Yeah.
I'd probably look up news stories and things of that nature. But
I mean, you haven't been following it.
I mean,
in
not
any particular way, except beyond the. I mean, I haven't followed it terribly closely, just because I don't feel like I've made particularly good friends with the Souls series. Like I have tried, and I certainly really, really, really adore Dark Souls, but I found it's the kind of thing that I can't effectively take a break from and then come back to and be very happy. I took a huge break from it. I played it on the PC, really, really enjoyed it, but I took a break for some reason. I think I wound up having to change jobs briefly. Didn't have the time to play it, as happens a lot. Also upgraded my PC. I changed my hard drive. That's what I did. I finally upgraded to a solid state drive.
That's right. Yeah.
Re-downloaded everything. I didn't clone the drive or anything or move anything over. So I wound up having to go back to my cloud saves that were somehow in conflict with. I think I've explained this in the past. When you run that program that Durante made, the DS fix, that actually made Dark Souls run at proper resolutions and frame rates with and apply all of the effects to the game on the PC properly.
Saw that firsthand. Works real well.
Right. One of the things that it actually added in as a benefit was creating rolling backup saves. So when I finally did decide to get back in the game, I had a really hard time matching my cloud save to like what was happening in a backup, and something did not get along really well. And I thought it was fine, so I started playing for a while, and then I wound up doing something, and I wound up going to like the blacksmith for a thing, and he was very angry at me.
I think
He was very, very mad at me.
You hit him, I think.
No, I
or
hit
someone.
him. No, see, I didn't, and he forgot that I didn't, because I did, and then I did accidentally. I made a mistake. This was a terrible mistake. I had Dark Souls on my main monitor, and then I had like a browser open on my second PC monitor. I was running it in borderless windowed, so I clicked out to do something over here, right? And I was standing in front of him, and I clicked back over on the active game window. And even though I'm playing the game with a controller plugged into my computer, a left click in that game, I'm used to WoW. You have to click it to make it the active window, and it doesn't accept any like mouse inputs until it's
clicked on it.
Right, until it's the active window. So a second click would mean input.
Right.
Dark Souls does not play that way. So I clicked over, and there's my dude standing there with a spear, and he just like chink shoves it in the blacksmith's eye, and I was like, well, this is horrible. This is very, very horrible. I'm very upset. So I had to go out there and figure out how to restore a game from my backup save. And I did that, but apparently everything in the world got messed up when I did this other stuff. So I went down there, and he was just like, I was like, hey, man. He was like, hey, man. Clubbed me right over the head with whatever it is he was carrying. Murdered me absolutely to death. And I got really frustrated because there were several other weird little instances of things that were not right in my
Mhm.
game. Things that just did not feel right. I was missing gear. I went to certain places where I had already looted certain caches of weaponry and armor and stuff like that. Things that I know for a fact that I had already had.
Right.
And I was I was in bad mood. So
Mhm.
I was like, no, I need to start over from scratch. That's what I need to do. I already
Mhm.
know the first like half of this game perfectly well. I need to start over, need to replay it. But man, that's a horrible feeling,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's a really horrible feeling because
Yeah.
that game's mean. You
It
know?
is.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
So there I am sitting there with like this sort of messed up save game about halfway through it. 'Cause I had like rung the second bell or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and this feeling that maybe I should just start over,
Mm-hmm.
and this deeper feeling that maybe I should forget the game ever existed. I don't know. So
Yeah, I can imagine the feeling. I'd have to go through all that struggle and hardship again. It's a tough proposition because the difficulty in Dark Souls, it does make you want to double take and think about, do I really
Right.
want to do it again to get that part? Yeah.
well, so jumping forward, right?
Mhm.
That whole thing basically being that I've never ever been able to make friends with Dark Souls.
Mm-hmm.
But Bloodborne, it's kind of jumping back. It's From Software, right?
Yep. From software.
But with Sony sort of picking up the publishing, so it's going to be a
Mhm.
Sony exclusive,
Mm-hmm.
most likely.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of Victorian nightmare creatures, faster action,
Mm-hmm.
Souls difficulty style
Yeah.
thingy. I mean, this
Mhm.
has got to be the thing, right? We always know that there's going to be that piece of software that
Mhm.
initiates your movement into the next generation. So I'm just curious if this is your guy.
Well, no, it's not. Like I said, it's not like going to be one piece of software. It's going to be like multiple.
Well,
titles
one
that do it.
piece
Yeah.
of the software is going to be
It helps.
V1.
But it would help. Yeah.
Something is going to reach that point.
Mm-hmm. Some titles can help. I mean, Order was one. Bloodborne I could look into when I see more information on that. I could get in on that. But like I said, the more titles I see, the more things I pick up and look on,
Right.
the more likely I'll get a PS4. But until that time comes, I'm just gonna bide my time and wait.
I don't like that answer. I don't really care for that answer. I don't like the way you bide your time. I can't stand your insufferable patience.
Well, think about how long did it take me to get a PS3? How many years after it was released?
I
did it take me to get-
I actually don't even remember. How long did that take?
I think it was like 2.5 years after the
Yeah?
release of it. Yeah, before I picked one up. But yeah, it's been a minute.
Right.
I mean,
right.
the last console I bought on launch was the Dreamcast. That's the last console I bought on launch. Everything else I waited a good while for before I picked it
The
up.
PS4 is the only console I've ever bought at launch.
Okay.
It's the only one I've ever bought at launch. Everything else I've waited for some amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not even that long, but
I bought a PS2 and a Wii at launch.
I remember you bought. Oh, I didn't remember you. No, yeah, I do. I remember
Yeah.
you bought the Wii,
I
and I
did.
remember specifically you buying the PS2 at launch.
Yep.
Mm.
That one I bought, I think, pretty quick. That one I bought inside of a year.
Mm-hmm.
But silly as it may seem, I bought that because it was a DVD player.
Yeah.
That was a huge deal,
It
man.
was a huge deal.
Like I could play my DVDs.
And it was a
on
really
my
good
game
DVD
system.
player.
Yeah, it
And
really
it
was.
sounds silly to say at the time because everything is a good DVD player
Right.
anymore. But back then, there were some really kind of janky
Except for the
DVD
fact that nobody
players
who
out
plays
there.
DVDs anymore.
Yeah.
Well, somebody does. I'm sure somebody
Yeah.
does. That's just me being elitist, but I remember that. I remember that specifically.
Mhm.
I remember. Yeah, I bought it because I lost my DVD player in a disagreement,
Ah.
Mm-hmm.
in a
Okay.
very specific disagreement, and I needed the DVD player. And I was
Yeah.
like, well, I'll just buy this $300 DVD player,
Mhm.
which is absolutely silly.
Yeah, the Blu-ray.
But you don't need any of that. There's nothing
No.
that the 4 can do that the 3 can't do in terms of multimedia. It does quite a bit less
Mm.
than the PS3 does in terms of multimedia. The
Out of the box.
Yeah, out of the- well,
out
yeah.
of the not out of the box, out of the gate.
out of the
You know,
gate. That's right.
Adding things to it as it.
Well,
goes
like their
forward,
DLNA support and
Mhm.
different support for different file types, media file types.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
but, yeah.
Yeah, I can relate because the PS3, the Blu-ray functionality was one of the things that got me to pick one up.
Mm-hmm.
In that case, yeah. So I can relate with the DVD case. Oh, but also I remembered. Speaking of Dreamcast, also blew the dust off that and started playing some games from there as well. Played a little bit of Gigawing and looking through my collection. I was looking at what was this? I remember this game. Remember this game? Don't remember this one. What's this? Putting it in there and playing that a little bit. And also played one Zombie Revenge.
Mm-hmm.
I just think remember playing that in the arcades in the local mall here, And the biggest complaint I heard from everyone was that the game was too hard. So even back then, so it just kept me playing that one. And people were dying in stage 1, and I just kept persevering and playing on until I eventually got to the end. But it brought back a lot of good memories, the Dreamcast, and it's back that it's still working. I'm enjoying that.
Yeah, I was actually talking about going back through stuff. I was looking for a particular disc earlier, and I had to go back through all my old PC discs.
Right.
And that was a big trip down memory lane. It wasn't just like PC games, but I had a bunch of stuff I had burned, like emulators for the Dreamcast, or
Right.
updates for some PlayStation 1, attachment or whatever. But I've also been going through my Steam library, just trying out things that I've accumulated, mostly smaller indie titles, until I find one that really sticks. And I just finished playing a puzzle platformer called Vessel. Have you heard of it?
I have heard of it. I know of its existence.
It was really, really good. It grabbed me right off, and I played all the way through it. It involves the story is this guy who he invented a device that controls water, and they turn into these little automatons, essentially, that are programmed to do specific tasks, and they've gone out into the world and they're used in industry, but they've all adapted in unique ways to their environment in unexpected ways and are causing havoc. So you have to go out, learn how to harness their abilities in these different environments. There's like a factory where they've learned to adapt to molten metal, an orchard where they've adapted to this type of fruit stuff, pulp that grows out of the ground, and then a cave where they either attracted to or repulsed by light. But it was a great time. Just wrapped that up, and then started playing some. I'm sure we'll talk about later.
That's good. So, what all were you playing on the Dreamcast? What all do you have? What do you still own on the Dreamcast?
Oh, that'd take a while.
do you have a really good library? I have like 2 games on the Dreamcast. I have Crazy Taxi.
I got a CD book
Do you
full
really?
of Dreamcast stuff that I still have that I flipped through. Zombie Revenge, Giga Wing, a lot of the SNK fighters, Ikaruga, one of the best shooters I've ever played. Confidential Mission, Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, the Phantasy Star Online series, stuff I haven't even played. Alone in the Dark, I bought it. I haven't played it, just bought it. It was on a discount somewhere. I mean, I
remember that. That was a good game.
Okay, I need to play that then. Someone mentioned in the chat room, I think, Shenmue.
Repeatedly mentioning Shenmue.
Shenmue. I've got the first one and the second one. I've got those 2. I've got plenty of Dreamcast titles that are available to play. And like I said, the fact that the Dreamcast still works, I'm real happy about that one. Matter of fact, I don't know what to do if it ever breaks down, if the laser goes out. There's probably lasers or whatnot available online or something, parts to pick up, or
I'm sure you
things
can.
to pick up. Yeah, something to do along those
I don't
lines.
think the Dreamcast is so incredibly rare at this point that you can't get a hold of one that's being parted out, right?
Mhm.
Or an incomplete kit, or one that's maybe battered, well loved a little bit too much. Might not be a bad idea to buy one at some point anyway. Buy one that's been roughed up a little bit just for spare parts, so that in the eventual, the likelihood that it's going to die on you at some point, that you've got some sort of backup. It's really sad.
Yeah,
it's like a really, really sad thing to contemplate.
I
The death of a
think about
beloved
that
console.
every now and then. As I look at some of my old consoles I've got, there's going to come a day when not only do they not run anymore, but it's impossible to find either working ones or parts for them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of the pieces of security that I really enjoy from PC gaming. Not that it's 100%.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know. I'm still routinely playing games that are 20 years old, 25 years old.
Yeah.
It's very, very easy to maintain access to those games, assuming someone somewhere has maintained continuous ownership of those games and distribution rights. So I don't know. That would be a really, really good idea. I think we should all probably consider doing that at some point in time. Lay in an old stack of them, make it look just like your old shop did. 20 PlayStations high, just in case something goes wrong. Racks and racks of closet clones for spare organ parts and stuff to
stacks taller than me or you, James. I mean, I remember
Right.
those things. Yeah, like I remember asking you, "What are these for?" That people want them fixed, and
Right.
then some folks just like
Some people
just
found out
just gave up and just didn't come back for them.
yeah, some people would pay the diagnostic fee, and I'd tell them what was wrong, how much it would cost to fix it, and they're like, never mind.
They just
And
leave it there.
and then they just left
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So yeah, plenty of spare parts available for that case.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break, and then afterwards we'll be back with more in-game chat. And welcome back to In-Game Chat, where we are apparently reminiscing in the chat room about, what was it, DivX?
Yeah, DivX and HD DVD.
HD DVD. I don't know, if you've been around long enough, I find it really strange, this particular console generation being something that isn't... It defines itself in an awful lot of ways, but one of the ways it didn't define itself was by a format war.
No, it didn't, did it?
And this is one of the very first time. Am I wrong that this is possibly the first major console iteration that hasn't either resulted in or been the result of a format war, a data format war?
Since we moved to discs, anyway, you mean?
I mean, I guess there were, I guess, format disagreements.
Yeah.
Even before that, but with the possible exception of there being some question about whether games would come on disc or not.
Yeah, that was true.
This time around.
Yeah.
A lot of the early speculation, particularly about the Xbox One. But I realize that particular argument is just... we're just not having that right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Blu-ray and HD DVD was a pretty big deal. It was a really, really big argument. And for the second generation in a row, it really it was one of the driving forces of adoption of PlayStation systems, Blu-ray and DVD, not necessarily being a Sony only thing, but
Sony backed.
Yeah, Sony backed.
Yeah.
But DivX, I had forgotten about that, and obviously we're not talking about the codec,
Right.
For anybody that might think of it in that terms.
Yeah. There's probably a lot of people that have no idea exactly what we're talking about. It was
whether it's the format or the codec.
It was something, I know it was backed by Circuit City, and I want to say it was Circuit City owned, but it was basically a DVD that had things encoded a little bit differently and would only play on DivX players. But the kicker was you had to connect it to a modem because we didn't have broadband back then.
Was it really that long ago?
Yes, it was.
When was this? What year was this?
Oh, man. It was like
late
98.
90s?
Yeah.
Wow.
Somewhere
some of
around
us
there.
had broadband
Well, some of us
in
did.
late 98.
It wasn't really widespread yet.
No,
you
it
know?
wasn't at
so
all.
if you were going to sell a device to consumers use the internet, it
That's
had
true.
a modem
No,
on it.
that's very true.
Yeah, TiVos back then did the same thing. So
No, I had a Series 1 for an
Yeah.
awful long time that didn't know what in the world to do
right.
with the internet.
Well, anyway, you would essentially rent the DivX desk. You'd pay $5 at Circuit City for the desk. They, pushed them as being much cheaper. But then you'd get it back, to your house, and you'd be able to watch it for a certain period of time. And if you wanted to watch it again, you had to pay the rental fee again. And I think you could eventually buy the movie and unlock unlimited viewings
right,
of it.
like 5 easy payments of $17.99
Yeah.
or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, it was a ridiculous,
And didn't they,
ridiculous idea.
But they would just become unusable. They would self-destruct like some old Mission Impossible reel-to-reel player, right? It shows up and a puff of smoke comes out and you can't watch it anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
You copy like RoboCop, it's totally done, or I don't know, whatever people were watching on DVD in 1998. But it was, it was draconian. People talk an awful lot about draconian DRM now, but like DivX discs would literally blow your house up if you tried to watch them again. I think people have forgotten about that. Probably because all the people who remember are dead. They were killed by DivX discs.
Just another
They
statistic.
carve themselves into shuriken and fly out of the DVD player across the room. Anytime you push play.
Oh, shrapnel.
After,
Okay.
Yeah, right?
Hmm.
I had terrible memories. What a joke of a format that
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, it was really poor. But they thought you could tell they were so proud of themselves.
They
They were
really
going to make
were. They
so
really
much
were.
money renting movies on disc in perpetuity rather
Yep.
than selling them. People were totally going to buy into it, and
Yeah.
nobody bought into it. It was
That's really
hilarious.
sad. I had totally forgotten about that. Largely because I had totally forgotten about Circuit City, which doesn't exist anymore
Yeah,
either.
because they're gone now. Yeah.
I doubt that's a coincidence
Hmm.
in any particular way. But yeah, I haven't thought about format wars in a while. Not that I want to, right? I
Right.
really don't. Nobody ever really liked it anyway. I didn't like the fact that any one format was necessarily better than another. Compatibility problems and well, not just compatibility problems, but fundamental design differences all arose from that. Cartridges versus optical discs, or the different styles of optical discs.
Mhm.
What did the Dreamcast use? Like the
A GD-ROM.
A GD-ROM.
GD.
Yes.
Yeah. GD-ROM.
What was that?
It's
A
been so long,
a
I can't really
fancier
remember.
type of
Right.
CD, I guess. Like somewhere between a CD and a DVD, I guess. I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure it was just a proprietary format
Yeah.
Right.
with a different laser. Although their drive was capable of reading standard CDs.
Yeah, it was. Can't
It
read.
also wasn't a particularly. I miss Sega. I miss the fact that their systems only ever had they had like a faint whiff, right? Like a perfume odor of DRM about them. It wasn't real. It wasn't like actual drilled down, bolted to the hardware types of DRM. They were just like, yeah, sure, whatever. You can't play copied things or imports or anything like that. But then, if you just stick this cartridge in here, if you do this like silly little disc swap,
Yeah.
Yeah. Disc
that's
swapping.
the
yeah.
that's the other game I have for my. I have Crazy Taxi and I have a boot disc
Yeah.
for my Dreamcast. That's the other thing I have.
Yeah.
You put these silly little like boot discs in there, turn it on with the boot disc in, pop the lid,
Yep.
right? Because they had lids.
Yeah.
Put your imported
Pull
game
that
in
out,
there.
put your imported
and it
game
would
in.
play.
I don't even know why I had that. I didn't have any imported games.
If I'm not mistaken, I think about roughly half of my Dreamcast library is imports.
Yeah.
So yeah, I probably
believe
got a couple
that.
boot discs in there as well, because a lot of stuff coming out in Japan just wasn't coming out over here,
Right.
and that's one of the things about Sega that I've heard as well.
It was like
Stuff-
that with the Saturn also, right?
Yeah.
And you would put in the Saturn had the
It had a memory card expansion slot.
it had a
right?
memory card expansion.
Memory
slot,
expansion
Video,
slot.
because it had a-
memory expansion specifically, not
'cause,
just like
uh,
save games.
It
1
had,
meg
yeah.
and 4 meg. A Pro Action Replay, I think it was.
Right, but it
Yeah.
wasn't just that, because you could buy. Well, it was a memory expansion, but it was also it was a. You could like save games to it as well, and then there was like the.
Yeah. And
But
the
it was a multi-function cartridge, right? that you
it
would
was
plug
like
in.
it was a backup saves, memory expansion, and Game Genie type.
Game
thing
Genie
there.
type
Oh,
stuff,
right,
and
right.
it
As
also
well.
let you play imports.
Yes.
Mhm. Yeah, imports. As
So it
well.
was like this little 4X cartridge. It looked like, for all the world, like a guy we work with, actually. One of the interns that works where Jeremy and I do.
Mhm.
Kind of dipped out and is going on his way. And he's a kid, right? So he's at that point in time in his life when he's casting off ballast left and right, getting rid of this stuff. I don't want anything for it. I don't care. I'm like, I'm leaf on the wind or whatever. Like, I don't want to be encumbered because I'm poor and I'm young and I can only like own what'll fit in my car.
Right.
So he got rid of his Saturn and gave it to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I already have one, but I was like, whatever, it's a Saturn,
Mm-hmm.
It was like classics. So I took it. And my brain could not figure out what the cartridge was. He had a memory expansion cartridge with his Saturn, and my brain could not figure out. I was like, why are you giving me an Atari game? It looks for all the world like an Atari game or something.
Yeah.
I was like, what is this? What is this dusty old crap? What is
Mhm.
this? But all of those memories came flooding back to me of
Mhm.
all of the weird, like long after U.S. retailers had stopped carrying American games, Software Etc. long before the entire Software Etc. and Funko Land and Babbage's and GameStop.
Mm-hmm.
We worked at a software, etc. And they quit carrying U.S. titles.
Mm-hmm.
But there was like one shelf in the store with refurbished Saturns, those little 2X and 4X cartridges for the Saturn,
Right. Right.
and like a whole shelf of Japanese games. And like that's how it died in the United States. It died a very Japanese death.
Yeah. And I remember all those folks coming out with the imminent death of the Saturn, and people like coming out waves of people like trying to be the last released Saturn game.
Yes.
So we
And
have
it
like
went on.
and it went on for
forever.
years. It went on for years, man. And people were like, "Oh, the system's dead." 2 years later, something new coming out.
Some guy somewhere he's like mashing together something that was
Yeah.
almost a Saturn game once, and he bought it for like, I don't know, a couple yen.
Yeah.
Decided to just stick it up, make it stand upright for a minute, put it on a disc, and shoved it out the door. And they did the same thing with the Dreamcast,
Yeah, they
if I
did.
recall.
Yeah. It was easy to
When was and what was the last game? Right, that is like not even that long ago. The supposed last Dreamcast game,
what was it? Some
or is it still ongoing? Is it still?
I don't know
is
if
the
it's
story
if it's
being
still
told?
ongoing. The last one I recall was some horizontal shooter. Some weird name, something DX or something. I'm trying to remember, but that's the last one I recall was being as the last Dreamcast game. It was it was a side-scrolling shooter, Japanese. It's like I said, it was something DX. So that's the last thing I remember as being released for the Dreamcast, a shooter. But a lot of times it was the Saturn as well was like a bunch of shooters and dating sims coming out left and right, trying to be the last one coming out.
Shooters and dating sims.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, somebody released one just back in January.
Really?
So, for the Dreamcast.
This past January.
It's still going
Yes.
on then. What was it?
Wow.
Was
Called-
it a shooter or a dating sim?
It looks. I'd have to play the YouTube video.
Both.
It looks like it's probably a shooter. I don't know. It's called
When's-
Redux Dark Matters by HughCast.
That could honestly be.
It could be either one, couldn't it?
Yeah.
HughCast.
It's a shooter.
It's a shooter. Put
Yeah.
it up on the screen for us.
All
We'll
right.
take a look at that.
HughCast, right?
HughCast.
Qcast?
Huh.
I don't understand. It looks like a dating sim. to
That's,
me.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was just thinking of one of the. I'm thinking one of the Fantasy Star Online classes that you could play. I think it was Raycast and Humor. So maybe they were fans that just put it together or something like that. Maybe that's what it was. That's what we got here.
Yeah, that's our guy. Dating sim or shooter? It's Japanese. You can never tell. I mean, there's certainly a lot of horrible metaphors or analogies or whatever.
So this is R-Type.
It looks a
Yeah.
lot like
Yeah.
R-Type.
This
Yeah.
is R-Type, basically.
An R-Type homage.
I don't know. I think it's an allegory for dating sims. That's what I think's happening up there.
You know, to do well in the relationship, you got to do well on stage, right? Beforehand.
Yeah.
Something like
There you
that.
go.
Okay.
That's what was on my mind. Having said that, you Phantasy Star.
Mm-hmm.
I never got to play that. I really, really desperately wanted to play that because I really desperately wanted it to be something I wanted to play.
Mm-hmm.
Have you, given the absolute reality that something like you didn't get an opportunity to play the Destiny beta, did you?
No.
Even
just
when it was
watched-
open up for everybody?
No, I didn't get to. I mean, I just saw it. I saw it in action when watching you and watching the guys play it here recently.
You given any consideration to that at all? I only say that because such a large number of people have drawn comparisons to PSO, to
Mm-hmm.
Phantasy Star Online, and I actually think they're quite fair
Mm-hmm.
to some degree. And I was wondering if something like that was at all enticing.
No, I mean, it looked a basic squad shooter type thing to me.
Yeah,
really.
I mean, because that is to be fair, that is what it looks like.
Yeah.
But it is not. That is not really even the beginning of the story, much less the end of it.
Mhm.
So, I was quite curious if something like that
I mean, Fantasy
did
Star,
anything for you at all.
No, not really. I mean, Fantasy Star. I mean, heck, I'm still trying to figure out why Fantasy Star Online 2 hasn't made its way here yet. I mean, there's a lot of people I know of would love to play it, but the only way to get it now is like probably make some Japanese account on your system and try to play it there and
Yeah,
get the
that's
Singapore
what I mean. I've heard
version
a
or
lot
something
of
like that.
Yeah, I've
but
heard an awful lot of that, and I've
Mhm.
also heard an awful lot of people trying to find any good reason, honestly,
Mhm.
why it hasn't made its way to America yet.
Mhm.
And I haven't followed it. I don't know anything about it. I'm not even sure I've looked up any videos of it. Have you looked at it at all?
I've seen videos of Fantasy Star Online too, but like I said, they're all in Asian
Yeah,
regions.
right.
And
What
whatnot.
platforms is it on? Is it just
PC.
Is it just PC?
As far as I know, just the PC.
Okay.
Just the PC version, and that's where I played Fantasy Star Online Universe and whatnot on my PC. One of the few games I went out and got for the PC, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
The Fantasy Star Online. But comparison to Destiny, I mean, from what I looked at, I didn't see it because Destiny first person shooter.
No, it's
I mean,
it's in first. I know she doesn't look like your type, you know, on the surface, but it's in many ways it's Fantasy Star happening from a first person perspective is really all it is. Much of the undercurrent of the game actually really reminds an awful lot of that style of play in scale and in terms of motivations and exactly how the missions and encounters and group activities are put together. So
yeah, missions, encounters. What was that Fantasy Star? The rare items, building up your class, bidding yourself up to the highest level. Like in my case, in Fantasy Star, I always pick the Ranger, long distance and support.
okay,
The long distance support type of character. You know, never in the thick of battle, but somewhere behind, sniping enemies from a distance, so that they can't react to you. But
I like a good support role.
Yeah.
I actually do. Which, to be fair, is something that Destiny does not have. That is one of many complaints I actually have about it. And one of the ways in which it does remind me. Forgive me if you're the kind of person that can't stand when I draw this connection, but that is one of the ways it reminds me of Borderlands, right? Borderlands, you have a sniper type class and a melee type class. Well, you got the hunter, you got the guy with the fists, you got the soldier, and then what was the...
Siren.
Right. All of them still, though, largely dependent on ranged combat.
Yeah.
And even though they have different roles, theoretically, to fill in a particular slot in a group activity, they're kind of like, you're just, you're still awfully similar in a lot of ways. And I miss games with really, really good secondary or support roles. And not direct support, but like indirect support. I've said this probably too many times, but it bears repeating every so often. My favorite MMO class, my favorite multiplayer class I have ever played was my Defender in City of Heroes.
Yeah.
That game had almost nothing but problems, right? It was a lot of solid ideas, but the game was largely made of holes. It had enormous troubles. But its class definitions were so good. They were so completely good, and I can't remember having played a purely support type of class, and it was very indirect, right? I played a kinetics defender. So by definition, the entire class was about attacking and drawing, energy, debuffing an enemy in order to then rebuff your friends, increase their damage, heal them, shield them, do all of those different things. Really, without a doubt, my favorite. You played Defender, didn't you?
I played I played with you. Well, that was
We all three played Defender.
Yeah.
I played a controller.
You played an Illusion controller.
Yes.
yeah.
Which was it shared half of its DNA with the Defender.
Yes. All of my secondary abilities were
Right.
support abilities, which in my case they were all healing and buffing. And my primary stuff was using illusory stuff, mostly creating other little pets, illusions that would draw the attention of the mobs,
Right.
and get the attention off of my friends.
So
it was still mostly a support role.
No, yeah, it definitely
I had some
was.
attacks, but they weren't terribly effective.
No. For a game where the actual structure, where the actual mission structure and raid structure for what it was, at least when we played. I mean, we were all there effectively at launch. 10 years ago this past April.
Oh, really?
Yep, 10 years ago, April 2004. I remember that. I remember 2004 was me salivating over City of Heroes. But not until Scott started posting all these ridiculous screenshots of him hovering in what was it, Galaxy City. And I was like, that's it. I'm going for it. I'm biting.
Yeah. What was our group? Circle of Honor?
Oh God, I don't even
Something
remember.
of honor, Defenders of Honor, something like that.
Something like
I
that.
keep saying of honor. I think it was in the name of
Yeah.
I think it was our group. Yeah. Mhm.
But yeah, we all, I don't know, for whatever, 10 years ago, MMOs weren't even fully baked back then. But for a
No.
game that just didn't have a very strong structure for what a group should be doing, for the types of things that a group of people like that should be doing, the ability for you to build a class that actually had some important effect on the group dynamic was incredibly fun. I would love to have had that type of class structure, that type of
Mhm.
multiplayer class building freedom, I guess.
Yeah.
In,
So many abilities
in
and
something
whatnot
like
to
World
get
of
there.
Warcraft with a much better structure to the overall game world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's.
Mhm.
Yeah, I have a sad now. I have another sad. But that was good. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that.
Good times back then. But yeah, as for like we were saying, a comparison between Phantasy Star and Destiny, I didn't see it. Maybe I'd have to see more to see to get the comparison.
Well, if you
But
if you appeal to anybody who is currently a fan of Destiny, for whatever reason they are, Destiny must be, and I'm using their words. You
Mhm.
have to play it to understand it. I
Okay.
will even grant them that is true to some extent, because I liked it a lot more once I played the alpha
Okay.
and the beta, and I really was not entirely on top of it before then.
Mhm.
But I felt better about it. I've kind of reversed myself even further. Like I said last week, I've canceled my pre-order. I have no interest in playing the game.
Mhm.
Not because I think it is an inherently bad game, but I don't know, for a lot of reasons. I'm really
Mhm.
not feeling it. I actually don't think they're going to be delivering on their promise of content in such a way that it's going to keep a large enough number of people happy. I think there's strong evidence, given what they've already shown us, that their encounter design is a little too simple. I know it has to be, because again, we're talking about Borderlands style-ish type of classes. 3 separate classes without defined roles. You know,
Mhm.
they are all very, very similar, and they do distinguish themselves more and more over time. But I don't know. There are going to be an enormous number of people who like it. I'm not even suggesting that it is the game for you. I was just curious if
Mhm.
somehow you had made that connection.
Mhm.
I would imagine maybe that once it has been out for a while and Bungie, mostly Activision, has an opportunity to react to concurrent player numbers and to a little bit of the feedback and see what the actual reviews are. Not that there is such a thing as an actual review, which is something I honestly would like to talk about in the second hour.
Mhm.
Maybe the game will take a better shape. Maybe it'll be the type of thing that a broader group of people would be interested in. At the moment,
Mhm.
I don't know. But I honestly was really curious what you had thought about that.
Mhm.
What that next thing might be. I am much the same way Scott is, and I think we all are very curious what your future pattern of game purchases might be.
Hmm.
We all played together in the same types of universes once upon a time.
Right.
I'm just curious when that's going to happen again. So I'm always on the lookout.
Yeah.
Always on the lookout.
Yeah. Well, it's not just fighters and sports I play. I mean, I play a lot of different things. I mean, eventually, we'll get on the same page somewhere.
I hope so. It's taken
Mhm.
an awful long time.
Yeah, 10 years.
Maybe skip that PS4 and build a PC.
I mean,
Maybe
I
skip the PS4 and buy a video card. That's
buy
about where it is right now, right?
video cards. Yeah, heck, I only update my PC like once every 6-7 years,
Yeah.
maybe. I know a lot of you are shuddering at the idea of not updating your box for 6 or 7 years, but I've been doing it for a while now.
It's been very common. There's a lot of people that have been in that
I did
particular
that.
position.
Yeah.
So Dennis was the same way.
Yep.
Mhm.
It's okay. There's certainly nothing. There's nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly fine. And it is a huge expense. It is an enormous expense and a very
Yeah.
big deal. Anytime you want to do it, particularly
Mhm.
compared to $300, $400, $500 console.
Mhm.
I mock your $500 gaming console.
Your video card was that much, wasn't it?
Not mine. Scott's was. Scott's was less than that.
Hmm.
Scott spent stupid amounts of money on his, but that's fine. Scott is who he is. Hey, Scott. We love you. And on that note, we're going to take a break, and we'll see you at the top of the next hour. And welcome back to the second hour of In-Game Chats. We're going to open up the phones this hour. If anybody is interested in giving us a call, you can ring us up at 334-272-9228 if you like or not. So, yeah, where did we leave off? There was, we were talking about how badly you need another PC. And the chat room picked up on that.
Yeah,
they think you're on a perfectly decent and perfectly reasonable upgrade cycle.
Some do.
Every 3 to 6 years.
One person has in bold, 6 years. Yeah,
6 years. Who was that?
I think Fuller.
Yeah, talk to Nabokov.
Mm-hmm.
He'll nag you and harry you until you just give up and upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
You've switched over. You've switched over into your.
I've dealt with this before.
Stop talking about. Yeah, I know you have.
I've dealt with this before. Yes,
Which is why I'm suggesting you should reinvest in the conflict and the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So. Yeah, I don't know. I talked about this a little bit last week. Just when in the 1 hour I was here and I got to barf every opinion I could fit into it. I certainly don't regret my ownership of the PS4 at this point. I really don't. Because I'd be all green-eyed monster about it, and I would just desperately want it for anything, for any old thing. It doesn't matter what. But I really find myself suspicious of how I have felt previously about consoles, and I know I'm not battering them. I'm not beating them up. I'm really not necessarily saying anything horrible about them. There will be. Are to some extent already exclusives that are very important to own any particular console.
Mm.
And you're right, it's going to look that way. It's going to be a must-have probably in another year to 2 years. By this time next year,
Mm-hmm.
I would have regretted not owning it, not setting the money aside and picking it up at launch.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I feel even more now that the only really sound investment for me personally, and probably for an awful lot of people who don't know it about themselves, is a gaming PC. And I know that the buy-in is quite high. I know that there's a lot of cost associated both with the purchase of parts and with the need to understand a gaming PC. Jeremy and I are both computer janitors, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're both IT guys that spend the majority of our time fixing small, ridiculous problems, because 90% of all problems on computers are small and ridiculous. And on a Windows-based system, which is what you have to have, let's honestly set aside any of this concept of SteamOS and the Steam box. It's not happening. It is not there, and it is not going to happen now, or in any real form like we thought it was. It is not here to save you. They are not going to show up at the 11th hour to make high-end PC gaming cheap and easy. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that for the time being, PC gaming is going to work like PC gaming has always worked. You have to do your research. You have to find your parts. You have to look at YouTube videos. And it's much less frightening than it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be a terrifying experience, right?
Yes, it was.
And it's still pretty awful, but it's gotten an awful lot better as well. And I have so much more. I have a huge investment in it. My investment in the PS4 is monetary, right? I had to put that money aside. I had to save that money up. And then I had to take it out of the box. And that's what I did. I had to press the power button. I had to connect the power cords. And that's everything. But my relationship to my PC, I think, is at least half of why I feel so much more about PC gaming that I do. And there's that philosophy of PC game, real PC gaming, not ports, not multi-platform stuff. I mean genuine, not messing
Stuff
around.
born and bred on the PC.
Yeah, games that have no interest in being on any other particular platform. And there's a certain disposition inherent to those sorts of things that I really want everyone to experience to some degree or another. I actually think it has a lot to do with informing the way we are as apparently I'm not supposed to use this word anymore, but as gamers, right? Or as members of something that might be gaming culture. I think that a lifetime spent in the shade of a console is not a waste, but it's I look at it like a very sheltered type of existence. And I really want to reiterate, I do like being there. I do think there are certain people that the return on the investment of being a PC gamer wouldn't be particularly great. I don't think PC gaming is necessarily the right introduction for children.
Mm-hmm.
But I find that I don't exactly want to preach about it or evangelize about it, but I really wish it was something that more people could experience. And thinking on this for the past several months, having more time to think than time to play, I've actually, a lot of the anger and hostility I have towards certain divisions of the gaming community has eased up a little bit, and some has gotten a little sharper. But I understand why people needed the Steam box to be real.
Yeah.
And not just be real, but to do the things that we all assumed it would. Why you needed to sort of imbue it with properties that it never had. And I understand that, and I definitely do. But I don't know, broadly speaking, not to be too political, and I absolutely don't want to spend any time dissecting tabloid news, but broadly speaking, I think that our culture, I guess, I don't know. I don't even think it is a single culture.
Mm-hmm.
But things have gotten very vile. Things have gotten very extreme.
In our shared space.
Yeah, in our shared space.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose that's the best way of saying it. And I really kind of, I really, really lament that, and I'm not entirely sure why it is. And one of my many suspicions, and I have several, they're all things I'd like to talk about and examine, but one of my many is branding. Everything has gotten so very strongly branded, and everyone's association with those brands has gotten very strong. I've never gotten in a platform argument with another PC gamer, necessarily. And if I have, it's about NVIDIA versus AMD or something like that, and those weird, ridiculous issues. Like those of us who live in gamer poverty are always buying AMD cards because they're cheaper and they're more problematic. Whatever. So it's that kind of thing. There's less of an opportunity to just argue about what type of person you are, because it's much more inclusive. It's much more of and it's not a much nicer space. I'm not saying that. It's not inclusive by, doctrine. It's just by accident, a much more inclusive thing. And I have great bonds with somebody who has experienced the fear and the anxiety of putting together their own PC, of knowing that they've invested $500 to $1,500 in all of these weird parts, and oh my God, what did I do? Are you kidding me? I can't put this together. I don't have no idea what I'm doing. Is it supposed to sound like that? Is it supposed to make that noise when should I press down this hard?
That sickening crunch when you install a RAM chip or something like that.
Right. That crunch of the printed circuit board as you press the RAM down, and you're hoping that you're putting it in the right way.
I swear I thought I broke something the first time I heard that noise.
Right.
Yeah, but it turned out okay in the end.
That's how you knew you were doing it correctly, if you thought you broke it
mm-hmm.
once upon a time.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know, but I really do find myself wishing to spend more time in that space, not just playing any old game in that space. I could be comfortable playing a multi-platform game. I could be really comfortable playing a multi-platform game on the console, even if it's on the PC. I sort of sneer. I do this in Jeremy's presence an awful lot. I really actively sneer at the from the comfort of my couch routine.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that old song and dance that somebody always drags out when we're fighting over, the validity of SteamOS or of what do they call it? The mode with the button, and you click the thing and it goes full screen and you play with the controller.
Oh, big picture mode?
Big picture mode.
Yeah,
I was thinking like big top mode. I don't know why I got to a circus place, but I certainly understand that, but I do sneer at it an awful lot. I don't necessarily get along with people in that respect.
Mm-hmm.
So totally often, but I don't know. We can pick that back up. It looks like we do have a caller. JRB 101, are you there?
Yes.
Hey, what's going on?
Hello.
Hey.
I was just wondering, what are your opinions on Minecraft Pocket Edition?
On the Pocket Edition.
Yeah.
What is that on? What is the Pocket Edition on?
That is on most Apple devices.
The mobile version?
Oh, it's
Mobile
the mobile
version.
version.
The mobile version.
I haven't played it. Do you play it?
Yes, it's a game on the App Store. I'm pretty sure it's $6.99 or $7.99.
Right. Do you
Yeah,
have
it's
do you
just
have like an iPhone or an iPad that you play it on?
Yes, I played on my iPad.
Okay. Have you played it on the PC before, or have you played it on like the Xbox? Or is
Yes, I'm a big fan of the PC version.
Oh, really? That that actually kind of goes to the point I was making earlier about the PC not necessarily being a good entry point for younger gamers. Minecraft is absolutely.
It is a good entry point.
It is an excellent entry point. I have only played the PC version. Jeremy and I have
As have
both
I,
played
yeah.
it. And I haven't played the Pocket Edition. I have to be honest with you. I'm not even sure I can wrap my head around the Pocket Edition. But you've played both, so is it like how much? My instinct tells me, knowing what it is on the PC, that the Pocket version can't possibly be anything like what I've played on the PC. But you've played both, so I don't know. I could theoretically get behind it, but I've never really been able to play things on my phone particularly well. I don't know. You have a little bit, right?
Yeah, I occasionally play some things on my phone.
But I almost never do.
The thing is, with the Pocket Edition, I do like the PC version better because there's the multiplayer effect, and you can play online with your friends and create servers and stuff like that. But with the Pocket Edition version, you can open your single-player versions and play with friends who are on the same Wi-Fi as you, but you can only have a limit of people on the server at once.
How many? Do you know?
I'm pretty sure it's you and 4 other players.
That's okay. More than Destiny. Well, it is. That's actually not that bad at all. So it's all like local multiplayer.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, some of the best times of my life have been spent in local multiplayer. It's not something that I do anymore. I don't ever really all of my friends live in their own places, and we don't ever. We all play with each other remotely on the occasions that we actually do. If someone had told me when we were getting together in 1998, 1999, and playing on a LAN, that someday that people would be doing that on their phones, that a bunch of people like sitting in the same room, and we're talking like 17, 18, 19-inch giant CRT monitors, enormous things, 3-foot tall computer cases, cables stretched all over the kitchen, the living room, and the dining room, with everybody set up everywhere, 5 or 6 different people coming over to the house just to play Quake 2 against one another. And that, forget about it. Another 15 years, you just use your phone for that. Yeah. I'm old enough that I have a hard time wrapping my head around that.
Mm-hmm.
And I have never. That's not true. I have considered the mobile versions of Minecraft before. I've sort of looked at them quizzically.
Mm-hmm.
Just been like, I'm way too old to understand what's going on here.
One of the things that
I
gets
can't
me
possibly get this.
Yeah, one of the things that gets me about PC or console to mobile, things like that, is always the control issue to me. I mean,
Right.
how sensitive is that touchscreen going to be when you try to get that precision in certain actions? So let me ask you: have you had any issues with controlling your characters or aspects of Minecraft on this mobile version?
Well, if you're a big fan of playing, like, online with friends, like, let's say I was playing in Florida and I want to play with one of my friends who lives in, like, Miami, then I'd suggest spending the extra money to getting the console version because you get the extra aspect of the better multiplayer and you can download mods to make your game better if you want to.
Mods are a huge part of Minecraft.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know.
So it's like a Minecraft Lite, maybe the mobile thing, like to.
Well, how do you feel about it, having played it?
Well, I am a big fan of playing with some friends, just hooking up with some guys and playing on a server. But if, like, I'm with some of my, like, close friends that I actually know, not over Skype, then I do like Pocket Edition because you guys can just like lay back on the couch with your phone instead of like sitting on the computer with your monitor shining in your eyes at 11, 12, 1 in the morning.
No, you're right. See, it wins by sheer volume. The argument wins by sheer volume. The comfort of the couch is, for some reason, I am apparently a fossil. I am a dinosaur. It must be that I've been sitting at a computer chair for so long that my body is just naturally bent into that shape, right? Hunched forward, like shoulders tight, like my hands in these weird little velociraptor claws. Like my fingers automatically, they form on WAS and D, and like my hand is automatically on my mouse. I must be one of the only people in the world that has that amount of. But I understand it completely. It does make sense. It's one of many things that I have just never taken the time to put my mind to and understand very well. But it does make an awful lot of sense, I guess. I don't know. Like Nabokov says in the chat room, it's Minecraft for when you aren't home to play Minecraft. Simple answer to a complicated question. Thanks for the call, JB.
Okay.
Yep.
So what else you got?
What else do I have? Well, where were we? We were talking about... we're talking very specifically about the PC stuff. Jumping back on the track of... I don't know. It's been the conversation for a very, very long time. Just generally speaking, I feel like, at least in terms of my observations, has been naturally kind of argumentative, right?
Right.
If that makes any sense. And I could be entirely wrong here. I could be absolutely off base. If I am, by all means, particularly somebody in the chat room, set me back on track, because I don't know. Nobody ever really seems to have the same type of opinion about all of this. But everything has become so incredibly hostile. There's so many people, generally speaking, involved in the conversation about gaming. It didn't used to be a conversation. Gaming wasn't even something that you talked about broadly. You didn't talk about it on the radio. You barely talked about it on the internet. You had to have the kind of savvy to negotiate your way through to an IRC chat channel to find anybody anywhere who was actively at the same time as you talking about playing video games. And it was so rare. You had conversations at school. This was long before I actually had to work for a living, but even when I did, I just worked around other people who had them. And even at that time, the conversation was so, I don't want to say precious, but it was limited in such a way that it never seemed to really turn into a fight. I think that's a much more modern phenomenon, and I can't exactly figure out why. The being happy that you were playing something and that you found somebody else who was playing something as well, and that you were willing to talk about the details of the thing that you most enjoyed seemed to be enough. And an awful lot of the time it doesn't seem to be enough for anyone anymore. And it certainly doesn't seem to be the goal. I could understand if in an effort to simply have a really honest conversation about, hey, this is great. What do you think about this game? And you start down that road, but you wind up ending up in a fight because, how do you feel about Minecraft Pocket Edition? Well, I don't like it, or whatever. That's not me, obviously. It's just a consideration, and it's like, well, all right, fine. Never mind. I'll find somebody else who does.
Yeah.
And then that's perfectly fine. But everything seems to drive toward a huge argument about it. And one of the many things that I feel is responsible for that is the heavy emphasis on brand and marketing, and the even stronger need to identify yourself with any particular brand or with any particular type of marketing. And it doesn't seem... I know it's not healthy. Everyone knows it's not healthy. And I know that that's not the genesis of it, but I find myself retreating back to the PC a little more. There's a lot of uselessness there as well. The glorious PC master race joke that is ever present anytime. It's sort of the escape hatch, the bolt hole, the bailout ejector switch. It's like, never mind, forget it. You console people fight amongst each other. I'm a PC guy. But that's not even true. I'm everything guy. I'm a fan of video games. I'm not a fan of Sony. I'm not a fan of Microsoft. I'm not a fan of Nvidia or AMD. I like playing these things. I like seeing what can happen. I was always more interested in the experience I could have than, whether I was on the winning team or not.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Which I find surprising because in retrospect, we're all quite happy to have been, like on the Sega team, for example, right?
Right.
The historical underdog.
Right.
And they're not around anymore. Nobody can make fun of me for being a fan of a dead system. So it's just sort of an oddity out of the past. So I don't know. It's not a particularly well-formed thought. I do understand that. But personally, I find myself retreating back toward the PC. And just because I can at least avoid the kind of discomfort I feel anytime there's a Sony versus Microsoft argument, which I shouldn't say I don't understand. I understand it, inherently, I guess. Tomb Raider and what they did with the upcoming Tomb Raider is a perfect example of how awful the business has gotten, and how you must feel if you've been a fan of something that's premiered on Sony systems for almost 20 years now. 6, right? Tomb Raider? First Tomb Raider was
That
96.
sounds right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
On the PS1. So I understand, I don't know. I know where it comes from. I just am not comfortable being involved in it. And I feel like I'm dodging landmines most of the time. Instead of just going to a place and being like, yeah, but isn't this great? Like if you don't like, whatever, if you don't like the Microsoft system, go away. Go to a Microsoft place. Or if you don't like the Sony system, go away over there. Or keep your trap shut. Or be nice in a thread about it. Or something, anything. So,
just like you can't have honest discussions. It sounds like those times when I tell someone about when they talk to me about, say, Final Fantasy. I'm just not a fan of the JRPG genre. I mean, I've tried it,
yeah.
and I didn't like it, so I gave it up then. But when I tell someone, nah, I'm not a big fan of Final Fantasy, and they got this, how dare you not like
Right.
one of the
Right.
greatest
Right.
games that's ever been made
Well,
on God's
because
green earth?
no,
How do you
because
do-
they like it.
yeah,
They
I
like
can't
it, and if
understand
you
that I
don't like it, that is a criticism of the thing that they like.
Mhm.
And if it stopped there, as it should, it's all fine. And you can have an intelligent or a humorous conversation. You can
Yeah.
even have a heated or energetic conversation about it without being mean. But
Mhm.
that's not what happens anymore. Everyone,
Instead, it gets taken personally,
Yes.
as though
Yeah, that
you've
it does
attacked
feel
their
personal to 'em.
identity.
right.
It feels personal
Or
when
they've
they
The
attacked
thing,
attack
they
your
feel like
words
the
or
thing
something like
they
that.
like is a part of themselves. It
Mhm.
is a part of their identity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a dangerous place to be because it means you can't, not only are you tiptoeing around everything, right? You're either avoiding discussions or tailoring your responses to certain things in order not to offend or just not, light the powder keg on fire.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It's just mostly everything devolves into a fight. I always find it funny. I will stumble into a thread or go find a conversation online on a board somewhere. And everything starts out with a relatively simple premise. Everything begins usually with a simple declaration or question. You don't even have to read most of the threads. You can simply look at the first page where most replies are 3-4 lines long. And then scroll down a little bit, flip a few pages forward. All of a sudden, every reply is 4 or 5 paragraphs long.
Mm-hmm.
And mostly, if you pay attention to it, it's because of the argumentative nature of replies and the inability of people to simply demur or recognize a difference of opinions or stuff like that. So it gets more and more complicated. The attacks devolve further and further, and it's quite ugly. Don't think for a second that I honestly believe by just retreating to the PC and paying more attention to PC-style things that I can avoid it at all. One of the first things that I wanted to do, one of the things I was most interested in doing was getting back to the roots of flight sims, or at least remembering the roots of flight sims, given how many of them, space combat sims in particular, are reemerging, right? And at a time after a decade of nothing to fly in space, no Han Solo moments, really anywhere in the last 10 years. It's been an amazing drought, a complete void. Nothing there. All of a sudden, everywhere, tons of them, procedurally generated, handcrafted, new properties, old properties resurrected, all of these different things. Tons and tons of it. And what's the first thing we do? What is the very first thing we do? We get in a fight about which one's better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We haven't had anything.
Yeah.
This
But you have to
no
pick
territory.
a team.
But all of a sudden, are you elite or star citizen? Which one is it going to be? Because
Because we got to have a
we
fight if
have
you're on
to,
the wrong
because
team.
we gotta burn a brand into your arm. We gotta put you on a team. We gotta paint you either red or blue and figure out what kind of person you are. And this is certainly not everybody, but it's out there too. So I don't know. Not again that I have a particularly well-formed argument here or any particular type of thought. Just that I find myself moving in any direction that takes me away from the fight and more to cooperation.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. But we're going to take another quick break, and then we'll be back for the final segment of In-Game Chat. And welcome back to the final segment of In-Game Chat. And we go straight to the phones. We've got Monte Cristo. Hey, Monty.
Hey, how are y'all?
Good. How you
Good.
doing?
Doing well. I'm a little bit concerned, though. It seems like y'all are staying to the easy debates, console versus PC, Sony versus Microsoft.
Yeah.
I want to put the screws to you and ask you the hard question.
All right.
Which is the better MOBA, Dota 2 or League of Legends?
We need the intern because none of us have played. We were just talking about how easy it is for certain people to bounce off of certain types of video games. I tried to figure out how to be about it, but I do not know if I'm going to go by concurrent viewers on Twitch. I guess I'd have to say League. League certainly seems to be a much more popular thing.
Is that your final answer?
No, of course it's not my final answer. Somebody give me a coin so that I can flip it. I honestly feel like a terrible person if I honestly give an answer because I have no real. All I know is how I have researched each of them as a person who feels like it's his duty to at least expose himself to MOBAs. And I got scared off just by descriptions of their communities and of the difficulty of actually learning each one. So
All right, well, let me put it this way then, though. Who do you want to hitch your horse to, the Koreans or the Chinese? The Koreans seem to be just killing it in League of Legends. The Chinese right now seem to be the kings of Dota.
Oh, that actually is a really, really. I hadn't expected a geopolitical twist. I like that. I'm gonna say Dota and the Chinese. I like China. I find China very interesting. So yeah, maybe that's my answer. Do you have an answer?
League of Legends.
League?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
League, clearly.
Have you played both?
Yes.
Explain it to me.
Okay.
Like I'm 5. Tell me why it's better.
All right. We're going out on the playground, and we're going to get you and 4 of your friends, and you're going to go against somebody else and 4 of their friends. And do you have the dump button ready? Because I'm about to start cursing.
Oh,
You're
no.
gonna call each other.
Please don't.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty much anger management in video game form.
Ah.
No, I'm oversimplifying it, but do you want me to seriously go through the whole deal with take down the towers, peel the onion, get to the enemy's throne or nexus, and kill it? But
We will
do that
not.
by-
understand you. I mean, and I not that we're like too stupid to understand the concept or anything, but merely that the one person that we know who we brought on specifically to answer things that we didn't feel like knowing about decided not to be here. So, thanks a lot, intern. I will honestly accept any input from anybody who wants to talk about League versus Dota, because I'm very happy not to be in the middle of that argument. It seems to be ongoing, always developing, and I don't know either one. I will tell you, if I were going to try either one, I think it would be Dota, and I can't tell you why, because I like the art better. I think, I don't know. That's a really, really terrible answer. So
if you just want to be a contrarian, you should tell anybody who asks, LOL is for noobs, Dota is for noobs, Dawngate is where it's at.
Dawngate. I don't know what it is, but it's where it's at.
Yes.
All right.
I will repeat that until I sound like I know what I'm talking about.
Cool.
Thank you very
thanks for
much.
taking my call, guys.
Yeah, thank you for calling. We
Have a
appreciate
good
it.
one.
Take care.
All right, and now we have Dale on the line.
Hello.
Hey, how's it
Hey.
going?
Hey, it's going great. Hey, I've been a listener for a long time. Just wanted to say hello. Is Jeremy still there with you?
Jeremy is
Hey,
here.
I'm here.
Hey, it's good to have you back on the show for
Thank you.
a long time.
I appreciate that.
Real quick, I can answer the last guy's question. Dota 2 is better.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Help me
I
out.
put
Provide supporting evidence.
Well, I put about 30 hours into League, and I put about, 200 into Dota, and the art is much better in Dota.
See, I knew it. I knew it. Instinctively, I understood that the good art is where it is. Obviously, that translates to better to better quality gaming. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
But actually, the reason I called, or the topic I wanted to provide real quick was I just the other day finally finished Half-Life 2 for the first time.
Oh, wow.
And I thought it was excellent. You could see all the production values and everything, groundbreaking stuff shown through. But having played it 10 years too late, a little bit might have been lost on me.
I'm sure,
especially
yeah.
the fact that it's like 20 hours long.
Which
So-
did you play the base game or did you play episodes 1 and 2?
Just the base game, and it took like no joke, like 20 hours.
Yeah, it actually. I mean, that is very much a time span that was expected in even first-person shooters back then. We've recalibrated to expect more of an 8 to 12. I mean, even I talked about this last week. Even Wolfenstein was only about. I did 2 complete playthroughs, and I think my total playtime was only about 26 hours. So probably about 13 and 12, something like that. I can't even. I have totally forgotten. I've lost my memory of the length of Half-Life 2. When did you play the first Half-Life, or did you?
I did. I played that one probably 4 or 5 years ago. And to be honest, my playthrough
That's
of
so
Half-Life 2
weird.
actually took about 2 years because I'd play it for like
Right.
a half an hour at a time,
Uh-huh.
and then put it down for a couple of months and come back later.
Right. I have to tell you, the more I pay attention to different people, let me preface this by saying I think an awful lot of people, kind of going back to where I was at previously, have been moving more and more into PC gaming in the last 6 or 8 years. Right. It's become a much more viable place to be, largely because in addition to the upfront cost, you've got dirt cheap software. And so it is a much better long-term investment. I think a lot of people are agreeing with that. And so there are a lot of people who skipped definitive experiences like Half-Life. And I have run across more and more people in the last few years that are just now playing Half-Life 2. And for me, there's no question. Like it doesn't. There's no conversation about whether Half-Life 2 was one of the most important games ever made. It is. That's just. Some stuff just is, man. Like, that's just how it is. Half-Life 1 was that way. Half-Life 2 was that way. But while people seem to be able to recognize it for what it is, like anthropologically, right? You can look at it and be like, oh, okay, I see. I guess this was happening in 2004, so it sort of led to this and these other things. The development of gaming grew out of that, from that point.
Sure.
But the number of people who have played it recently and just been like, yeah, I can, I sort of get it, but I'm not Yeah, I guess I'll believe you guys if you say it's a big deal, but I don't know. I trust you.
There is a lot of that out there.
There is, and I don't necessarily take it personally, but it does confuse me because I can't. I really wish I had that experience. I wish that in some way, in any way, I knew what it was like to just now have played Half-Life 2. What a really amazing and possibly confusing thing for you.
Well, it's really strange because I was playing games on the PC back in like the mid to late 90s, and I played through all of Quake, and then I got out of it. I went to college. I had consoles for, like almost 10 years or something.
Yeah.
And so then coming back to it, having played all the Halos and Call of Duty and whatnot, then picking up Half-Life and Half-Life 2, it's like, wow, this is kind of, on one hand, it's like very much reflective of what we have now, but it's also a blast to the past at the same time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, for me, I've been I've dropped out of PC as a main gaming thing for a while, but I have a very particular view of what I think the recent history of gaming is, what the last 15 years of gaming is. And I find it fascinating that we all have a slightly different view of that depending on where we spend our time and in what order we played things. So, I don't know, it's very fascinating. I do recommend the episodes, but...
Yeah, but the thing is, then when I get to the end of episode 2, I'm hanging, right?
Yes, you are.
We've been in a bad spot for a long time.
Yes, we have. There is a part of me that's been at the end of that game, waiting for the next moment, waiting for the next thing for a very, very long time. I don't necessarily want to leave you there, but I would be interested. I would be interested if you would play through that and then call us back once you're at the end of episode 2, and so that we can compare that hanging moment. Yeah, that would be.
I don't
really,
know how
really
long
good.
it'll take me to get through the episode 1 and 2, but
Right?
I'll
Maybe
let you
another
know.
couple of years. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Give us a ring when you're done. I'm interested in hearing how you feel.
Maybe just in time for the Half-Life 3 announcement episode.
Right.
There you go.
Man, that's bad.
All right, guys.
All right.
Thank you very much for the call. I appreciate it. And now we have Duke on the line.
We do.
Hey, Duke, you there?
I am here.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. I just called up because that caller kind of was throwing me back nostalgic to the Half-Life 2 universe. And Half-Life 2, or Half-Life in general, was the reason why I am probably so obsessed with gaming today as I am. It was that first time playing Half-Life was it back in 98?
November of 98, yeah.
And Half-Life 2 is the reason why I'm on Steam today, because that was their
Because
way
you
of
had
pushing their...
because you had
Yes.
no choice. You had
Exactly.
absolutely no choice whatsoever.
But the thing I think, the reason why, and I've played Half-Life 2 a dozen times, I've done Black Mesa, I've done all the expansions, and I've done the episodes. And in Portal, because remember they expanded the universe into Portal. But the reason why Half-Life 2 still stands today is because Valve paced the game and they designed the game to kind of different climax. The climax of the game changes. You first start off and you're introduced, and Gordon Freeman's a silent character. You never really hear his voice, you never really hear his personality, and the whole narrative is based around what people interact with him and what the viewer sees on screen. And there's no real cinematics. The only real cinematic in the first game was when you're being dragged by some of the soldiers, into the trash compactor.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And in Half-Life 2, the same thing. There's no real cinematic except for the very opening and the very end. And anyway, to get back to the way Half-Life 2 is structured, it starts you off, introducing you to the environment, what happened between the end of Half-Life 1 and where you are now. And then it throws you into this chase, and now you're kind of running and escaping, and your blood pressure's up, and you're trying to figure out a way to get out of City 17. And, then it introduces you to vehicles, and then it introduces you to these other bases, Black Mesa East, and you got this calm, melodramatic dialogue. And then it does something that the Half-Life universe didn't do. It throws a horror element into it. And you go from, action to essentially you're in Ravenholm and you're scared. You got the zombies now and you got the traps and you meet oh man, I can't remember the name of the guy you meet in Ravenholm who set the traps.
Oh yeah, the Reverend.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
And there's this, and anyway, the soundtrack is perfect, and I'm not going to go through the whole game, but it's just perfectly paced, and it's a different experience in every part of the game, and it's why the game has this aura to it that players kind of fell in love with. It's not just a straight action, it's not just a straight horror or strategy or whatever. These other type of games go for one kind of theme. It changes the way the narrative changes. It's almost like a movie, and I think that's something that Half-Life. People are going to be kind of pissed when Half-Life 3 comes out, because I feel like Half-Life 2 is the Dark Knight of the Nolan trilogy. How can you do something better?
Anything you do for the third act it's not going to live up.
No, it won't. But I still think it'll be great, and people will accept it. But the expectations are just so high. Oh yeah, you're playing on the screen. I can see it.
Yep, there it is. I would. Sometimes I feel like it's a little bit. I feel a little disingenuous because I agree with you completely, but there's that constant reference, the ridiculous reference of the eventual, the ultimate, the as yet unseen Citizen Kane of gaming. But I mostly think we've already had it, and I mostly think that was Half-Life 1. You can point to it, and you can look at a lot of imperfections. You can say, it's mostly academic now, right? If you watch Citizen Kane, unless you're an incredible cinephile, it's not a particularly enjoyable film. You watch it to understand why it is considered perfect.
Right.
I feel the same way about Half-Life. At the time, it was revelatory. At the time, I didn't even believe it was possible. But I understand so much about why gaming is what it is, and so much about why we are the people we are, and the motivations for how to get a player through an environment. And your reference to pacing in Half-Life is almost perfect, because it kind of vibrates perfectly between the sense that something's chasing you and you must move forward to get away from it, and the sense that the thing you desperately need, right? You've got safety behind you, but the thing that you want is ahead of you. There's always got to be a reason to move forward in Half-Life, and I never felt the pause. I never felt like someone was taking control away from me. I never felt like I was being forced to do something against my will. Everything felt natural and perfect. Anytime there was an abrupt change in motivation or location, it always felt reasonable. And it's very subtle, it doesn't scream at you, and it's almost impossible to point out. It would take incredibly deep analysis to really show why and how all of these things work. Then sometimes I think we wind up just arguing about the silent protagonist, which I have really never understood. I don't need my guy to talk. And I know so much about Gordon Freeman, and he's never said a word. And I don't think that's a problem.
That's kind of why I was disappointed that when Isaac Clarke started talking in Dead Space 2.
I was too, actually, to be honest with you.
Mad.
I'm in that same camp.
Man, you guys did it great in the first game, and you could have kept going, but you took the easy way out.
Yeah, I know that there are certain people that have their own reasons. I'm even willing to understand some of those reasons, but I don't agree, and I don't have a problem with a silent protagonist. It means that the rest of your cast is what tells the story. It means that everything has to be picked up and learned and associated in context. And in fairness, I think that requires a lot more hard work. I think it's much harder work to make a Half-Life, clearly, than it is to make any other random shooter.
And with what little dialogue does exist in Half-Life 2, it tells a story, it just expands on everything. Like, my favorite line in the whole game is when you're in Black Mesa East, and you see this hallway as you're going to get the gravity gun, and you start to walk down the hallway, and Alex turns to you and says, "That's the passage to Ravenholm. We don't go there anymore." So, and she says it with that perfect...
perfect intonation.
Everything.
And it delivers... it gives you shivers.
It does.
It gave me shivers.
It gives me shivers.
I didn't know anything about Ravenholm, and I believed them. Yeah. I don't want to go there. It was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. I think... I don't know. I need Half-Life 3. I have to have it. I need, or Episode 3. I don't even care what it is. I need the next thing. I need the resolution, and I won't even mind, I think, at this point, if it's imperfect. If it is,
Well,
if it's a
evidence
flawed third
suggests
act.
we may get it soon. We saw that Dota is being
so.
ported
I really
to
hope so.
Source 2 or whatever. You see these little hints that maybe something might be coming when this gen, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, when this gen becomes a little bit more mature, they'll drop the Source Engine 2 on us.
Yeah.
And get ready for that. So.
And there it is. I am with you in being someone who perpetually hopes for it. I will bite down on every rumor, every guess, every shred of information, every possible thing, every indication that it's on the way and around the corner. So, and I very much agree with you. You and I very much of the same mind with Half-Life. So, thank you very much for your call. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
So yeah, just a few minutes left tonight. Thanks everybody who called in and who has been listening. We really, really appreciate it. I hope that everything's going well for everybody out at PAX. Thank you, PAX, for nuking the Twitch servers.
Yeah.
And making it very difficult for everybody to stream correctly. Hopefully, we can get some of that Amazon cloud service love happening now that's
that'd be
actually
nice,
a real
wouldn't
thing.
it?
Maybe I don't know. I have a much different disposition to Twitch now that it's Amazon rather than YouTube.
Two things I was thinking about with the phone call concerning Half-Life. Okay, first of all, never played Half-Life. But the way I'll describe it with such reverence, are you concerned that if or when Half-Life 3 comes out, the expectations are going to be so ridiculously high?
The expectations have been ridiculously high for like 6 years.
Okay.
It is unmatchable. It is, all right, one of two things is going to happen. Either I'm right, and the expectations cannot be surpassed or met, or even, you can't even get in the vicinity of the expectations. Or somehow they do, and I'm wrong, which is even better. But I don't think you can. And I think there were signs of that already. I think that by the time that the second episodic material came out, it was merely telling the story of the Half-Life universe, and we already felt that, like it's just more Half-Life 2. That sense that you're revealing any kind of new gameplay concept, that you're doing anything fundamentally new in terms of design isn't really there. You're just following through on the story of Alex and Eli and Dr. Kleiner, and like what is Gordon's ultimate goal? Who is he really? It was still very much a mystery, and you were just following that. What Half-Life 1 was maybe one of the most important games ever made. Probably in the top 5 most important games ever made. Half-Life 2 was important for different reasons than Half-Life 1. I don't know how 3 could... There isn't as much space left. This is a pretty dirty phrase lately, and I think it actually deserves its own segment at some point in the future I would like to spend on it. But you are reaching diminishing returns in terms of design. I have no problem with first-person shooters, but they do limit you in terms of what you're able to do. And Valve simply knew what the uncharted territory was, the kinds of things that needed to happen with gaming. If you go all the way back to the late 90s and read a lot of what Gabe Newell had to say when he was more hands-on in terms of the development of his actual game, you knew that he was already living 10 years in the future in his head in terms of design. And that's what they meant to put down on actual code with those two games. I don't know what there is left to do. I don't know what things I still want that they could show me. But I doubted them both times, really, and they proved me wrong both times. So I don't know. Fingers crossed. And like I said, I will bite on every piece of bait, every hint of everything. So that'll about do it for us. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Thank you, Jeremy, for sitting in.
Yeah.
We really appreciate the calls. We appreciate the listeners. We certainly hope everybody out at PAX is having a really good time. And we
Dragon
hope to
Con
see
as
you
well.
again. Do what?
Dragon Con as well.
Dragon Con as well. I forget that that's happening at the same time. What a terrible choice to have to make. Right?
Yeah.
I'm sure
Either
for a
or.
lot of people. But yeah, that'll about do it for us. So I reckon we'll see you all again next week. And yeah, maybe get a little bit of actual game playing. Stay out of the fights. Boot up some games. Don't argue over anything. Be good. Be excellent to each other.